Are you getting computer science degree but unsure where it will get you? Maybe you're already learning for months or years but still not see how you're getting closer to a dream job. Or maybe you didn't even start and have no idea where to. If you are one of those, you better watch this video until the end and maybe even several times, because here I will present the roadmap from 0 to 1. The one that everybody actually needs, but nobody is speaking about. It will help you to understand where to start if you want to build something great or if you want to land a job in IT world. And let me tell you why the most guides you can find on the internet are not good for the start. So I want to break into the IT world. What do? I go and search for guides for the beginners. And everybody says the first step is to learn how to code. Like Sayat Hader, Jack Harrington, Traversy Media, Freecode Camp, Fireship, all those, the biggest channels in IT world, all miss that first important step, which should be to ask three following questions. Who do I want to become? What products do I want to build? And is the job market actually ready for me to join? If you skip that simple step, you end up learning without any direction. And after finishing one course, you will inevitably go and search for another one, because you're still not able to connect all those little dots. So I want to give you step-by-step instructions how to get clarity at your first steps in IT journey. First things first, you have to understand what is your motivation. There are only two possible actually. First one is you are genuinely passionate about coding and just want to build something great, and that is your main driver. The second one is you want the benefits. You just want a nice salary, you want the flexibility, you want the remote working, all those stuff, maybe free coffee in office. You can have both, but you should understand which is primary and which is secondary. For example, my primary motivation was always money. I always wanted to get into the IT so I can have a good salary, to afford renting a good place, having a good food, and just traveling because I love traveling. By the way, if you don't know me, my name is Aleksei, I'm a software developer, and on this channel I'm speaking about methods that I think actually work in IT much more effective, but just everybody is afraid to speak about them. Both of those motivations are good and you shouldn't be afraid to speak about any of them. So this video will have two parts. In the first part focused on what you want to build, I will go through all the possible positions in IT world. We'll speak about the most available languages, technical stacks, and roles. And also we'll rate it with the speed, complexity, and demand. In the second part, given that we all now know what are the possible roles, we will think about how you should address that, what should you focus on if your main motivation is to get money and benefits. So let's go to the first part. What if you just want to build stuff? Well, you need to understand what can you build. Basically, there are only 6 pillars of the products in IT world. The first category is web and interactive applications built with JavaScript and TypeScript. Second category is AI and data engineering. This is where the Python lives. The third category is mobile apps. Here you would choose between Android and iOS. The fourth category is large corporations, as that's where the Java and C#. The fifth category focusing on performance or building the whole systems. And the last category is the game industry. We'll speak about AAA projects and the smaller one, indie games. So if your main motivation is to build something, you probably know what you want to build. And all you have to do is just to focus on that single thing. Become a specialist in this single category of products and learn all the nuances how to build all the little details and components in that area. Now let's see what are the all possible technical stacks and roles available. As mentioned, I will rate each of them. For the speed, 5 will mean that it's the most fastest one, and 1 will mean that it's the slowest one. For the complexity, the 5 will mean that this is the easiest way to get the job, and 1 will mean that this is the most complex technical stack or the role to master. And for the demand, of course, 5 means very high demand and 1 means very low demand. First category, first pillar is web and interactive applications. This is the foundation of the modern web development, and JavaScript has the solid first place here. It runs in all the browsers. You can have 3 possible technical stacks. The first one is with the front-end focus, and this is also the most common entry point. Here you use JavaScript or TypeScript plus React, or Vue or Angular. This technical stack is focusing on creating user experience and interface in a web browser. The second category is the full stack one. This is JavaScript only and it's called MERN stack. It means MongoDB, Express.js, React and Node.js. It allows you to build both frontend and backend using only JavaScript, TypeScript. Because you have to learn both frontend and backend, it's much harder to get your first job because you have to know much more. But that's also your advantage because now you can build stuff independently. For example, me as a backend engineer, I can only build logic but I can't make very beautiful and interactive websites. And the last category is traditional full stack. This is more old style. Here you use PHP and Python, which you would pair with the front-end technologies like HTML, CSS or vanilla JavaScript. Regardless of the technical stack, what are the other technologies needed for the job? Well, you have to understand the modern standard of HTML5, of course, and CSS3 too. Then for all the roles we will speak about today, you have to understand what is the Git and version control, so I will not mention it anymore. But become a real expert in a Git, GitHub and GitLab, because this will be must-have in any job you will try to land. As a front-end developer, you have to understand how the API works. Because you will have to interact with the backend, you should understand what is the RESTful APIs and what is the GraphQL. Next one will be package management, so NPM and Yarn, those things you need to manage the project dependencies. Then you need basic ability to write tests. For the JavaScript we use Jest or VTest. And for all of the 6 categories you will have to build some portfolio just to show your skills. Rating. The speed is 5 out of 5. The path to a junior front-end developer is the most well-defined and richest in the materials in the industry. Complexity is 4 out of 5. The core of JavaScript is relatively easy to grasp, but then of course you have to learn all the surrounding technologies. And demand is 5 out of 5. It's very high, because every company needs a web presence. The next category is for all of those who are learning Python. It's AI and data engineering. Yes, Python is undisputed king in the world of data, but you will not find a Python anywhere except from this category, because Python is not very popular for the backend development. Go and check how many open job listings there are in your preferred area. For this category we also have 3 possible technical stacks. The first one is data science or machine learning. Here you would rely on a Python with its core libraries. It's like Panda, NumPy, Scikit and TensorFlow or PyTorch. The second category, and the single one I advise to try as a beginner, is data analyst. It's the best entry point because it's not so complex. Here you will also need Python with the pandas, and you also need to understand SQL. And because you will have to present the data, you also need to understand how the dashboards are created. For that we can use Tableau or Power BI. And the last category is data engineering. It's different from data science. Here we'll use Python with the categories for big data like Apache Spark. And of course we need some pipeline schedulers like Airflow just to maintain the data flows. Those are the key tech stacks, but what are the other technologies you need regardless of which one you choose? The SQL databases should be understood at least on the entry level for you. You should be able to tell a story with the data you have, and for that you need the tools. Then you need to know how to build an environment. For that check out Jupyter notebooks. Not to mention the core fundamentals. You have to understand how the statistics, probability and linear algebra works in order to succeed in ML field. And of course version control and portfolio as mentioned before. Rating. Speed is 3 out of 5. Yes, Python itself is very easy to learn, but all the surrounding technologies and fundamentals can take more than a year to get your job ready. Complexity is 2 out of 5. Language is easy to master, but the domain is very complex. For the demand is 4 out of 5. The field is booming, but many entry-level jobs are very competitive. Let's go to the next category, mobile apps. Those are the modern and official languages for building applications on the mobile phone. So not surprisingly, you could have only 3 categories when it comes to the technical stack. The first one is iOS. You will use Swift with technologies like Swift UI or UIKit to build the most performant applications for iOS. The second tech stack is Android native. Here you will use Kotlin. Lorvat is Android Studio and Jetpack Compose as the first steps. And the last category is the cross-platform. You could possibly build a product for both platforms with one single codebase. And this is harder, so I therefore not recommend it, but here are the possible languages. First one is the React Native. Again, JavaScript or TypeScript also allows you to build mobile applications. And the second option is Flutter. It uses the Dart language behind the scenes and is powered by Google. Regardless of the tech stack, what are the other technologies you need to know? You have to understand what are the APIs, because you'll interact with the backend in RESTful and GraphQL. Also, you have to understand UI and UX principles. Because you design an application, you should follow the user experience guidelines. Apple and Google has its own. Then mobile-specific knowledge is up. You should understand how the application is behaving when it's closed, open, and notification occurs. Because you rely on app stores, you should understand what are the policies and how to ship to the different app stores. Portfolio and version control. It's quite fast. The learning path is very direct. You have a lot of high-quality documentation and tutorials from so becoming job ready could take from 6 to 12 months. Complexity is 3 out of 5. The languages themselves are not so hard to learn. The complexity comes from mastering the large SDK systems. You have to know a lot of problem-specific details. Demand is 4 out of 5, because the same as with the web development, companies also need the presence in the mobile phones. The next category of the products is the large applications. Those are the workhorses of the corporate world. Those are the stable, performant and very well documented languages. What are the possible technical stacks? The first one is Java plus the Spring Boot is the standard. It's a very mature and performant combination. The second one is Microsoft ecosystem, C#. You could puzzle it with ASP.NET Core or just .NET. This is the top choice for organizations and everyone who is interested in Microsoft architecture and ecosystem. The last technical stack is the modern alternatives, because Golang is also very often chosen to build highly scalable microservices, while Kotlin, as another choice, is a good alternative for old Java because it's new and it's much more concise. What are the other technologies you need to know in order to land the job? Well, first you have to understand how the databases work. So learn what is the Postgres, Oracle and SQL Server. Next, API design. Next, again, RESTful and GraphQL. Next, because we are speaking about the corporations, you should know how to test your code well. For that we use JUnit in Java and NUnit in C#. Next, the cloud basics, because companies have the money to host their code on the cloud. Learn what is the AWS, Azure Cloud and Google Cloud. Also, we use containerization a lot, so you should understand how the Docker and Kubernetes work. And when it comes to the core concepts, well, start with a solid understanding of object-oriented programming paradigms, and of course the most common design patterns. Ratings. The speed is 3 out of 5. Because those are the large and feature-rich languages, it takes time to learn all of them. So the journey would take you between 8 to 18 months to get your job ready. When it comes to complexity, it's 3 out of 5. Because you have to master all of those core concepts. And also, the syntax is quite more verbose than, for example, Python. But the demand is 5 out of 5, because this is the backbone of the global economy, and it will not go away. So if you manage to learn all those technologies, you will be in demand for a long time. The next category is performance and systems. Those are the languages used to build software that another software build runs on, prioritizing speed, stability, and concurrency. Instead of technical stacks, I will just mention key use cases. For the cloud infrastructure and network services, you would use Golang. For the web browsers, operation systems, and game engines, you would use Rust. Ratings. Speed is 2 out of 5. It's slow, because those are not typically beginner-friendly languages. Get ready to spend around 2 years to become job-ready. Complexity is 2 out of 5. With those languages, you will have to solve very complex problems, like memory safety, high concurrency on a very low level. Demand is 3 out of 5. It is growing very fast, but the absolute number of the entry-level jobs is much less than in other categories. And the last category is the game industry. Well, let me tell you that you will not be able to find an entry-level role in AAA company. Well, of course, somebody is getting hired every day, but it is much harder than comparing to indie industry. So I will speak about indie industry as an entry point. We are speaking about building small indie games or even mobile games in small studios. Here are only 3 possible technical stacks. The first one is the cross-platform, most popular. Here you would use C# with the Unity engine. This allows you to build only once and deploy anywhere. The second category is lightweight and open source. Here we have GDScript, it's like Python, and you would use it with the Godot engine. This is the rapidly growing favorite for its simplicity, especially when it comes to building 2-day games. Regardless of the tech stack, what are the other technologies needed for the job? Well, you design the games, so you need to understand the design principles. Also, you need to understand some basic math, like trigonometry or vector math, because you will have to manage the movement, rotation, and all the physics. And also here you will depend on the platform, so you should understand the basics about publishing to Steam, App Store, and other stores. And of course, portfolio and version control. Ratings. The speed is 4 out of 5. Thanks to visual game engines, now the beginner can build a game within a few weeks. So becoming a professional to build a commercial-ready indie game would take you around 6 to 12 months. Complexity is 3 out of 5. Yes, the engines do handle the most difficult low-level code. The complexity comes with pairing programming fundamentals with the game-oriented stuff. The demand is 3 out of 5. It's medium. And that's because the job market is different from the corporate world. There are thousands of small indie game studios, but the competition is also very high between the candidates. For the game industry, building a strong portfolio is the most crucial step. Now we are done with the first part of the video. We all know what are the most popular languages and the products we can build with them. So let's think how you should proceed if you don't know what you want to build. You just want to land a job, get yourself familiar with the world, learn few technologies, get that programmer mindset. Or maybe you, like me, just want the money, the benefits and possibility of working remotely. Well, you should pick the easiest route. Let's speak about how you define the easiest route to the IT job. The key is landing a job as soon as possible, which will stay in demand and which will be the well-paid job. And by meaning as soon as possible, I still mean learning a lot, full-time equivalent study for 6 to 12 months. And you are looking for boring stuff, like Java. Because nobody is excited about learning Java. At least that's my perception. I started learning Python without direction, but then I just realized that what I'm looking for is the money, and Java is so in demand in the corporate world, so that's just a match. And the problem is that you cannot really rely on influencers here, because each of the influencers has its own course, so every blogger will juggle with the salaries just to try to sell you his course. I'm not a big fan of relying on statistics and data. Let's speak about which one is the best for you if you want just to land a job. Well, first one, unsurprisingly, is QA automation engineer. It's not a developer role, but you will still write the code, but just not for the features, but for the testing features. It has a slightly lower bar for an entry point, but it is still very crucial for all the company. For the technical stack, you need to know Python plus PyTest plus Selenium, plus of course Postman plus Git plus CI/CD knowledge. For the rating, it's 5 out of 5 for the speed. It can take you just few months to get job ready. For the complexity, it's 3 out of 5. Yes, you have to know the stuff, but it's not so much comparing to developer roles. For the demand, it's 5 out of 5 because everybody now needs an automation engineer, but I will mention that the salaries in the field are not the best, so I would say 4 out of 5 for the salaries. This will be my pick if I'm just too lazy and I want to get an entry-level job in IT world. You still get the nice benefits like remote work, maybe just not so high salary. The second role is front-end developer. We spoke about this earlier in the first part of the video, and front-end developer is a very good choice if you just want the money, because you don't have to learn so much stuff comparing to backend developer, for example. So if you like to interact with the user interface to see the results of your work, or just to change the colors on the website, this is your choice. The next one is backend development. As I mentioned, Java, obvious choice, the boring thing, but it works a lot. And yes, this path is more challenging and it takes more time to master, but once you get your first job, you will stay in demand, everybody will want to hire you, and that will last for decades, because companies are not so fast to adapt. And even if artificial intelligence is taken over, companies again are too slow to adapt, so you will have your job for more years than other people. The next one is data analyst. Basically just analyze data, create reports and make presentations to help the business make better decisions. This is technically also a very easy entry-level job in IT world. It is in demand because every company wants to stay data-driven, and the entry-level salary is also good, but the ceiling is not so good. So this could be a stepping stone if your end goal is data science, but you just don't have so much time. And the fifth one, the last one, is cloud engineer. This is not a typically entry-level position, however, due to huge demand in this field, some companies started to open entry-level roles. Your job would be to help to automate the infrastructure, like servers, networks, deployment pipelines that an application is running on. For the technical stack, it comes with the Linux, AWS, Docker, Terraform, a little bit of Python, and of course Git. The speed to land the job would be like 2 out of 5, and the complexity would be like 5 out of 5, because this is not an entry-level job. But the salary potential and demand will be also 5 out of 5. And this is the lowest and the hardest path, but it has the highest financial reward. So to summarize, if you want to learn a job as soon as possible, you should go for the easiest route. Don't go for the full stack, or don't go for the Python backend developer, because there are just not too many positions open. Also don't go for the SRE or data science roles. Just choose your path like QA automation, frontend or backend, depending on what you like the most, and then you have to do the reality check. And again, stick to it, because you will have to spend some time to learn fundamentals. Okay, so now you know what you want to build and what technologies do you have to study. But again, this video wouldn't be complete if you wouldn't do the reality check. This is the thing that every guide is missing, but you have to do that. So it's very simple. For example, I want to become backend developer using Python. So what I do, I just make the research. I go to the platform where I want to apply for a job. For example, my favorite one is the LinkedIn, and I type the Python backend developer, and then I select an entry level or an internship roles in my preferred area. If you are not able to find at least 5 entry-level positions open, that means that this field is not in demand in your area. And after you spend months or years learning, you will find yourself without any job because there are not any positions open. And here you have two choices. If your main goal is to build stuff, you probably still want to build stuff, so for example for mobile development you cannot really change something. And the best thing for you would be just to stick to that and keep enjoying what you build just for yourself without any money. But if you are a job-oriented person, you can of course pick another one. And again, do the same research. I don't think it's possible that you will not find any jobs open, but if that's the case, that means the market is just broken. By doing that step, you will get the clarity that you have that position open, you know what are the requirements because you have the job description, so you know what to learn. That is the best reality check you can ever do. And then of course, regardless of what is your motivation, just focus on that single tech stack and learn deeply. That is how you define what you should actually study. And only after that you can go to those influencers and watch their Python course because you know that you actually need the Python. Don't learn something that you don't need. The problem with the current job market is that education system is producing the IT generalist, but the market needs IT specialists in one single field. And I do understand that this can be overwhelming, but don't spend too much time choosing your language or platform, because nobody argues which computer game is the best for the gamer to start with. Everyone just always starts with a random game and then it goes and goes. I suggest doing the same with the programming. So let me know what you choose in the comments. Is it MERN game developer or did you decide to go for the Java? In any way, if you watched until here, this one might be useful for you, and finally please, choose your path, take your step and get paid.